Anne Hare has many dreams, but she was having a hard time putting them all together and breaking them down into a strategic plan that seemed doable for her in the season of life she's in. She loves all things simple, and what she wanted most is someone to help her create a simple strategy so that she could work on her goals and make progress toward them. Anne's first breakthrough came after downloading and using my free game plan workbook, which I'll link in the show notes for you if you haven't snagged it yet. Now, I'm bringing her onto the show today to talk about what her big burly goals are, how they've evolved, the breakthroughs she's had since working inside my program Finish Line Goals, and the progress she's made since. Anne has faced many types of chronic illness in her life, and she is here to say there is hope. Through prioritizing, lament, and creative play, she has found a way of life that honors her body and her desire to serve. It is absolutely possible to do exactly what God has for us to do within our capacity. Now, Anne helps other women who struggle with chronic illness through her podcast, She Copes with Hope. You're going to love Anne and this conversation, so let's dive in. Hey friend, welcome to Pursuing Goals God's Way. Have you thought about finally starting that business now that your kids are older? Do you ever stay awake wondering how to mesh your passions into purposeful work? Do you have big, ambitious goals but feel overwhelmed or even unqualified to pursue them? Hey, I'm Gabe. Not too long ago, I longed for the confidence to start an online business. I just wanted to make a difference outside my home bubble using my gifts. But I kept telling myself that I wasn't good enough. I didn't know enough, and I didn't have enough time. Until I realized something huge. My kids need me to be their example, and they need to see me win. And yours do too. In this podcast, you will learn how to clarify your goals, plan with purpose, and ditch your distractions. If you're ready to make an impact and an income, all for the glory of God, then you're in the right place. As an avid runner, I believe life is one massive marathon. It's up to you to run your own race and to finish it well. So lace up those running shoes, pop in your earbuds, and let's do this thing. Hey, Anne, thanks so much for hopping on the podcast with me today. I'm so excited to be talking about goals and some breakthroughs that you've had and all of the things.
Thanks for having me, Gabe. I'm really excited to chat with you today.
Absolutely. I always feel very blessed after my conversations with you. So
likewise.
I love it. Well, I did do kind of a professional intro already, but I just want to get this conversation started by asking you, what does pursuing goals God's way mean to you?
So Psalm 32:8 has been my anchor in this journey. It says, I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will counsel you with my loving eye upon you. I don't want to do anything out of alignment from that, including giving up. That's been a real challenge for me, as you know, multiple times. So every time I've come to an obstacle, I've read that verse and said, okay, God, this was your idea. Now what? Because I can't do this. And then I just listen, and he's always answered to the point that here we are today. So the other part, which you've helped me with, is to not worry about tomorrow, but focus on today. So taking the big dream, making it a goal that breaks it down into the stepping stones and the daily habits. Wow, does this ever honor the way that God asks me to operate in this world? It's just been gold for me, honestly.
I love it. Well, and that's been a journey for myself as well, instead of looking so far into the future, because I'm a driver by nature. So I'm like these big dreams and I want them yesterday. And so it's learning, okay, with God, let's just do the next right thing. We'll just keep pursuing that next step, and he will help guide us and lead us. And so I love that breakthrough. Now, I want to hear a little bit about some of the goals that you have, and maybe in this journey of kind of seeing that big picture and how you've broken them down. I just love to hear what are they in general?
So I have run across notes on my computer as far back as 2013. Showing my interest in the online world of digital products and even YouTube and, all that stuff. But I wasn't ready to take it serious then. So it was put on hold. My focus was definitely my kiddos then at that time too, because I just love being a mom, and I was just there with them. even though they were totally old enough to take care of themselves, But then I was forced to retire early at the end of 2020 due to a bulging disc. So at that time, time opened up wide for me. And that little seed that was laying dormant in the soil, just waiting to push to the surface, popped through. The challenge is technology. So my big dream, honestly, is to simply be able to do this thing. I'm not Moses by any means, but the thought that came to me is that God spoke through Moses, even though speech was his weak point. So then God gets the glory. So it's like that with me with technology and planning. It is not my natural bent at all. And so it's only happening because God is leading the way.
I love it. I would say kind of similar, like whenever I just try to do it on my own, or I, try and push through and think that I can do it all, is when I really get stuck, because I don't think we were meant to do that. It's like God gives us this big thing to do, but the whole point is that he equips us as we go, but then also because he's helping us, we can't take all the credit, right? We can give it to him.
Well, yeah. And for me, it was like, I can't do this. I'm no good at that. So the obstacle is then I just wouldn't. But through what I'm learning here, the little steps and all that, I'm finding that it is possible.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like breaking it down enough to be like, yep, I can do that thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can do that next thing. And then you look back and go, wow, I did what I didn't think I could do.
Yes. The looking back is the big part. Yeah. To see how far you've come it's surreal sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. So tell me a little bit about where you were feeling stuck as it was like creating the goal strategy, and a goal strategy that would work, because I know that in your season and your capacity, you wanted to make sure that you could do it simply. So what was causing you to feel stuck there?
Right. Well, so I'm not a go-getter person at all. So whenever I was exposed to like goal strategies, I would recoil. I've tried things like that SMART method or whatever, but it was just overwhelming. Like I'd go through and write down all the, parts, the S, the M, the A, the R, the T. And then it's like, well, then what? That's where I was stuck. And so even though one of the points of that acronym is actionable, it wasn't for me, because it like ended with the planning the plan. And the way my brain works, it just didn't work out. So I also struggled with time management until I discovered the priority planning. That works with my distractions. So I've overcome that obstacle.
Okay, tell us a little bit about what that means. Like, what is priority planning?
The priority planning. So I started that in May of 21 when I just was trying to figure out how to do life now with all these changes and stuff. And the priority planning is where I put the most important things first every day, so that, because I never knew when my back was going to go out, or if, I was getting sick really easy. I don't know if pain affects your immunity or what the deal was, but I would just have success every day, no matter what hit, because I had done the most important things first. And the distractions part is like, if my mom calls, I'm going to answer the phone. It's my mom, right? So I'm not good about putting tasks, maybe to a fault even. Like sometimes tasks should probably be more important. The phone call can wait, but it's just not my nature to do that. So then I would be off track. But with a priority planner, I would be able to just cross off each item as I accomplished it. So then when I was distracted and I came back to it, I could see right where I left off and just pick up again. So I wasn't derailed anymore. It just was awesome for the day-to-day routines, I think I would say. So then once I got my tech stuff simplified, I was stuck again with the overwhelm of this big project.
Okay, perfect. And that's kind of when you were introduced to Finish Line Goals, which is my course
Yes.
to help you create that personalized goal strategy in that stress less way, because I'm all about getting out of hustle culture for sure, but also being able to tackle those goals. So tell me a little bit about what was going on in your personal life or with your goals at that time. You were feeling a little bit stuck that actually made you interested in maybe this could be the thing for me.
Yeah. So that's what's so exciting is this course spoke to my not being a go-getter, right?
Mm,
The word hustle could be set aside. Don't get me wrong, I like to be fruitful and I'm not idle by any means, but I'm just not one to push through or grind it out. You know what I mean? So God's timing was just perfect. The no hustle aspect of Finish Line Goals fit into my priority planning that I was already doing, but it leveled it up for me with realistic goal setting that is not only painless, but I'm actually having fun with it. It just makes me giggle because I never dreamed of using the word fun and goals in the same sentence. Not me. It's quite a feat, Gabe. Kudos to you.
I love it. Well, I love that it speaks to you in that way because with me being a driver, I'm like, well, everyone can do it this way, this way, this way. That's how I used to think, right?
Yeah,
And then as I kind of learned and grew and heard kind of God speaking to me, I was like, I think that we all have ways of doing it, but we have to have a system that works in some way to actually plan that out. So I love how you already kind of had those daily habits. And then it was
right.
like, well, how can I incorporate my goals and break them down and put those into my priority planning that I've already established and I already have this routine and flow with?
Exactly.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I want you to be honest with me for a minute. Did you have any hesitations or doubts about joining us inside Finish Line Goals?
You know the answer to this. Nope, not even a moment's hesitation. With my previous experience with you in this whole adventure, your God centered focus on the podcast, and then the messaging that promised me I could go my own pace, I was just so ready for this. As always, if I would have had it back in 2013, right, I would have realized I could do it a little bit at a time, but here we are, right?
Better now than never, right? I always think that way too. It's like just looking at the gains instead of like the gap. There's the gap and the gain by Dan Johnson,
Oh,
I
yeah, I
think
haven't
is who
read
it
that
is.
one yet.
Such a good book, but it helps us to see like we're looking at the progress that we are making every day, the little progress, the little wins, and don't like look into the future of where I am not. Look at where I am and where I've come,
Right.
right?
Are you tired of quitting on yourself and your goals? I get it. You've been hemming and hawing about a goal you want to achieve for a while now, and you know your life would be enriched if you could make it happen. But it's hard to justify taking time out for yourself when your plate's already full with work, kids' activities, home management, and everything in between. What if I told you that you could, in fact, work toward a goal in a stress-less, no-hustle way so that you can make an impact on your kids and that they need to see you win? What if I told you that you can create a personalized game plan that works in the season of life that you're in with the capacity you have without sacrificing precious family time? Let me show you how to think backward so you can spend less time worrying about where to start and more time taking action that works. My simple Red Hot Goals formula will help you create a personalized game plan that works for the seasons you're in and the capacity you have. You can work your goals into your lifestyle without sacrificing everything to achieve them. With the Red Hot Goals formula, you will be able to gain clarity that makes your dream real to you without worrying about how it'll all come together. Craft a simplified game plan that gets results in the season of life you're in. And take action that works, even if you have a limited time to make things happen. Are you ready to ditch the overwhelm and go after your goals in a stress-less, no-hustle kind of way? Then head to redhotmindset.com/FLG to learn more about Finish Line Goals and join me today. Again, that's redhotmindset.com/FLG.
What would you say was the most frustrating problem that you were hoping to solve by joining us in Finish Line Goals?
Yeah, it was my absolute aversion to goals, which is a pretty big hindrance, right? Like, what could be more of a problem than that when you have this thing that's big and don't know how to get there. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, once you got in there and you started doing these, you were the first student to finish line goals. Like you got done so quickly. I was like, how did you finish so fast? But I would love to hear, like, because you had the aversion to goals and you knew, like, I don't want to hustle. I don't want that. So what did it feel like as you were going through the program? Did you feel like what I promised with the stress less and the no hustle came through in it, or what did you see?
Oh, absolutely. So your worksheet with the stepping stones and then the habits. And the cool thing was, like, I kept thinking, am I doing this right? And the way it's set up, you can't do it wrong, because whatever thing that you focus on now, you just break it down to those doable bites. And then it, little by little, it just gets done. It's so different than any other formula I've ever tried.
I love it. It's the red hot formula, right?
That's right.
So,
We got it.
That's good. And that's something that I wanted to have come through too, is that I think sometimes goals are not tangible. They're these lofty things, or they're just these kind of dreams or wishes, and it's hard to put them on paper. And something
Yes.
I wanted to do was take that and go, how can we turn these into projects that can become tasks that are tangible, that have kind of a timeline that you can actually see and say, check it off and go, wow, I completed that. And then you're one step closer to that goal.
Yeah. And the thing about it too is that you only, like, yes, you can get the big picture and break it all down, but then you only concentrate on the next little bite that you're on. So the overwhelm just is set aside in exchange really for focus, which it's just exactly what I needed.
That's such a good point, for sure. Well, I want to hear a little bit about your progress. What has been the biggest payoff for you now that you've finished? What were you able to do with that?
I would say in one word, motion. I'm not stuck. I'm moving forward, taking the small steps towards, you can do this thing. The charts helped me see, like I said, the little bites, the few minutes here and there. That's the thing too, by breaking it down. When you have just a few minutes, you can take a couple bites out of one of those steps. Like, I'm working on a workbook right now that goes with my first 6 episodes to make it like a journal, to like a deeper dive. And to think of, doing that whole journal is a big deal. But when I break it down into one page at a time, one question at a time, then when I have a few minutes, I can pop in and click on a couple pages and then step away. And it's just more realistic and achievable. And I don't have to neglect my other priorities in the process either, because I can fit them in between that. I love the see it, plan it, do it strategy. That really resonated with me also.
Yeah, super simple, right?
By the time you got to the do it, you're like, I can do
it. So good. So good. So tell me this, what are some things that you're looking forward to now with your goals? Like, how has it evolved? Maybe you could even break down, like, what is the big overarching dream that you have? And what are some of the goals that you're doing, the stepping stone goals to work toward it?
I don't have a lofty goal as far as like making the $1 million or whatever. It's more of a personal challenge that the seed was planted in my heart to do this thing. I can't do it by myself, but I can do it. And so the breaking down into the smaller steps makes it digestible. It's more, it's relaxing, I guess I would say. It's not intense or nerve-wracking. You just can kind of click away at it. And so there's always progress, but you're not, the hustle thing, you're just not having to do all the things to make it happen. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. And that's something that I like to, I talk about project time or projects versus like timely tasks. And I see our stepping stone goals kind of like projects where we want to get them done, but we don't have to like hustle to do it. We just go step by step. And once we finish it, then we move to that next project or that next step or that next goal. And so seeing it that way has been really nice in my mind too, because I'm like, Also, there's flexibility there because if I don't hit the timeline I wanted, as long as I am working and in motion and making progress, I'm like, it's okay. We can shift it a little bit because we need to shift and we need to be flexible in the seasons that we're in and even in what God's telling us to do. Because something that I think is really neat about you, Anne, is that you started with an idea and you started with one message and you were doing the priority planning, which you still are doing. But somewhere in there, God kind of shifted your focus and completely made you do a 180. Can you tell us a little about what that experience was like for you?
So that had to do with I was struggling to find the thing that I was supposed to focus on. The priority planning was good, but it felt incomplete, is how I think I would say it. And so I had actually listened to, I even wrote down, I think it was episode 183. Let me see here. Yeah. On your podcast about clarity. And I listened to it 3 times. And by the 3rd time, I went, oh, I think I need clarity. So I clicked your link for the CYC class. And through that process, my eyes were open to the fact that I have had multiple chronic illness through the years. And I just knew that at that point that was going to be a key part of my message, is to bring hope and encouragement into the lives of women that might also feel like, well, I don't feel good hardly any of the time, or I'm in pain or whatever. There's no way I can add that to my life. And so through biblical encouragement and just hope, then I started to rethink my life and what had to change. So by learning that, I realized there's other people, or women specifically, that could use that same help. So it just started with the podcast kind of as a passion project or a ministry right now, that if someone can glean from my story and help them get over a hurdle, then great. That's what I want to see right now.
I love it. Well, I feel like that you're a testament to really listening and tuning into the Holy Spirit and the direction that he wants you to go. And so that's super encouraging. And I just think the clarity, CYC, what Anne is referring to is Clarify Your Calling by Stephanie Gass. She has been a podcasting mentor of mine, and I really enjoy her program. She's a great teacher. So I can leave a link to that in the show notes if you're interested in learning more about that, if you feel like you are in the point where you need a little clarity. But I'd love to hear too, if a friend of yours felt stuck with her goals and asked whether she should join Finish Line Goals, what would you tell her?
I would say you would not regret this investment. Right down to the game plan workbook, it's a game changer. This method literally let me back up to the most simple, doable step and focus on that, like I talked about before. And then with that, my whole mindset completely shifted. I just love it. I feel so free now to do the thing that God has prepared for me to do, when before I just kept hitting a wall with goal setting. I know you mentioned before on a recent episode about your experience with ADHD, and I did an ADD test online one time. And so I've never officially been diagnosed, but out of the whole list of questions, I answered yes to all but one. So I'm like, that struggle is real. And it was. But now with the priority planning and then the finish line goals, breaking down to the manageable bites, I'm well on my way to seeing the fruit of it all coming together.
I love it. So what are you most excited about now moving forward? Where are you seeing God leading you next?
Oh, okay. I have another little dream. I might do YouTube also eventually. But right now, I want to be consistent on the podcast and I guess prove to myself that I can be consistent, because inconsistency was another thing that I always, I don't know, I think you would say berated myself for a lack of consistency. And so this has been a real year to grow in that area. And I'm seeing that that I just didn't have the right tools. And so for anyone listening, if they don't give up, if you haven't found something that's working, keep looking, because everybody's wired just a little bit different. And now, especially in this information age, there's something for everyone. And with Finish Line Goals, it just hit all of my weak spots. It addressed it. And the templates and different things gave me, it took out some of the struggle for developing all the little parts to make it work, and just let me just apply it and do it.
I love that. Well,
Did
I
that
know.
even answer your question?
Yeah, it totally did. I mean, I just love hearing where you're going and kind of what you're excited about. I know that priority planning has been huge in your life. I know for me, I haven't done it exactly like you, but I do try to get those priorities done early morning so that I know that it's done and I've accomplished the things that I want to do. So very similar, but I know that you have a free priority planner that my listeners can download. So we'll leave the link in the show notes, but let's wrap up and talking about your podcast a little bit. So tell me a little bit more about it. It's called She Copes with Hope. Who is it for, and how can listeners find it?
Yes, it's biblical encouragement for women living with chronic illness. And that can be whether you're the one with chronic illness or if someone in the household, sometimes moms have kids or husbands that are the ones with a chronic illness, but obviously it affects your day also, even in that scenario, because you're the one that's on maybe more, to manage all the details of it. So my website is shecopeswithhope.com. So there's a podcast tab on there, but then it's the She Copes with Hope podcast is also on Apple and Spotify.
Awesome. I love it. I was so looking forward to this conversation, Anne, and you did not disappoint. I just had so much fun hanging out with you, chatting about all the things, and I look forward to seeing you crush your stepping stone goals in the near future.
Thank you, Gabe. Thanks for putting your heart and soul into it.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I had a great time and I hope you did too. Before we go though, make sure you follow the podcast on your favorite listening platform if you haven't already. If you resonate with this episode, please consider leaving a review on iTunes or share it with a friend, as this helps grow the podcast. Also, if you're not a part of Simplicity and Motherhood, consider joining us. It's a free online community built to provide support and encouragement so you can create balance and live intentionally as you go after your biggest goals, God's way. Head on over to redhotmindset.com for more resources and to find the link to join the community. In all things I pray, you just run your race. I believe in you.